Ethan, not gonna lie, I completely forgot to set my fantasy team for half the races in Kontiolahti, so that is the only reason you're beating me in fantasy this year, or so far. So don't think you're doing so hot because I would be beating you had I remembered.
I don't know. You did text me halfway through the week about it, so I feel like you had the opportunity to change it.
Yeah. All right, welcome back. Oh, I don't know why I just got so blurry there. Welcome back to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. We are coming to you after week one, I guess, first 2 weekends of biathlon racing. The first races in Kontiolahti and Ethan. We had some pretty good ones. I mean, it's pretty exciting that biathlon's back now. But it's not just that biathlon's back; it's that these races were actually really entertaining.
Yeah, I think the start of the season always has some, surprising results and also has some disappointing results. And I think we had our fair share of those. And if they continue, the trends we saw in Contilati, if they continue through the rest of the season, I think it should be a pretty fun season.
I agree. And we'll dive into it more as we get into it. But real quick before we start, hit this QR code up here in the corner if you want to play some fantasy biathlon on Biathlon Pool. Real quick, let's take a look at the leaderboard here. Ethan, you are currently ranked 28th overall. Not too bad. Like I said, because I forgot to set my team, I am not even in the top 100. So that's kind of embarrassing. But shout out to Sizzy for being the leader after weekend number one. But yeah, still don't have a prize, but I'm working on talking to some elite level biathletes, and maybe we can get a pretty sweet prize for the end of the season. A nice bib from someone on the World Cup would be pretty sweet. So yeah, hit that QR code that's up here in the corner and you can join. It's not too late to play. Only one weekend has passed, and there's going to be tons of points earned throughout the year, so you can't miss. You're not going to miss too much if you join in now. So, all right, Ethan, what do you say? Should we dive right into it with our first shot here?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right, first shot, Suvi Minkkinen, Ethan. On home snow in Finland, comes up with her first podium of her career, age 30, and out of nowhere, really. I mean, we were talking earlier about how exciting this weekend was. I mean, this is number one. You're getting names like Suvi Minkkinen from Finland on the podium. Yeah, just super great to see a Finn on the podium. We haven't seen this since Kaisa Mäkäräinen.
Yeah, I think we've missed kind of the Finnish presence on the podium and towards the top of the races since Mäkäräinen left, and we're kind of, we've been waiting and talking about Otto for a couple of years now, but to have Mikkonen on the podium was fantastic to see at her home World Cup. We've talked about a little bit of her performances are sustainable, especially her ski speed, which has increased from 2.5% back to 1.6% ahead of. Is that sustainable? Maybe not, but either way, awesome way to start the season for her. I think what's ski speed way up, shooting percentages are up. Both of those, put them together and you get a pretty good weekend of racing. But what stands out to me most is that her prone shooting percentage after this first weekend is at a 100%, meaning she has not missed a single prone shot. I mean, if she can keep that up this season, I think she's in for many more podiums.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that until now when you're looking at the data, but 100% shooting the prone. I mean, even if she did that for the weekend, I think she should be pretty happy with that. But the fact that she's able to do that and get on the podium is pretty exciting. But yeah, I mean, as you can see by the numbers here, I mean, that's a massive increase in ski speed from 2.5% slower than the average skier to now 1.6 faster. That's got to be unsustainable. I mean, we can take a look at her. If she's ever had such a good ski speed in the past, but top 30 medium back. Yeah, you can see, I mean, this weekend basically was so much higher than her entire rest of her career, even in these races back um, in the past. It's so much higher. So, who knows? Maybe this is a new Minkkinen and she's at this new level, but it does seem like it's overperforming, and even if she settles back to like where she normally is, I still think she's gonna come away with this from this weekend, just being on top of the world and having new motivation. But yeah, I mean, we talked about like seeing diversity on the podium this week, and I think this was like Suvi Minkkinen was just the prime example of that. She nobody expected her to be on the podium, I think, especially with how competitive the women's field is. But yeah, I mean, she wasn't on my list of people to look out for, honestly. And now I think she might have to be. I mean, if she is truly skiing this fast and shooting this well, she could be a good candidate for another short individual or individual podium in the future. So definitely one to keep an eye on. We'll see if she keeps this going through the rest of the year. But anything else to say about Suvi before we move on?
Maybe not about Suvi per se, but about the whole Finnish team as a whole. I think having the World Cup opener at your home venue is kind of a big deal usually for most of the countries. It wasn't just Suvi that had some awesome performances too. The men had a great relay. For the
Right.
men's, races on their own, it wasn't just the auto show. Like the other guys were having really good races, and I think the Finnish team and Finnish fans should feel like they're in a pretty good spot for the rest of the season.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the relay team, would they come in fourth or fifth on home snow? That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, Otto and Suvi came in third place in Oslo last year in the single mixed relay. And so I think there was a lot of expectation that maybe they might be able to back that up, maybe not with a medal, but with a really good result. But then for the men's relay team out of nowhere to come through with a really top performance, it's kind of surprising because um, I, I I mean, I don't consider them a top five team in the men's side by any means, but the fact that they
Mm-hmm.
were able to do that, definitely great weekend for them. So yeah, overall great weekend for the Finns. Hopefully this means that there's going to be more Finns fighting for the top spot, because I mean they're so good in cross country skiing. It you wonder why it doesn't translate over to biathlon, but maybe this is just the sign of things to come.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we have a miss, and this is like kind of breaking news that's been coming out the last couple hours and day or so. Is Ingrid Landmark Tandrevold will not be participating in Hochfilzen because of some heartbeat irregularities, and I guess the team doctors don't feel it's safe for her to participate. And also just got news that Lisa Vitozzi will also not be racing until after Christmas. So the women's field is wide open when you have your number one and now your number three are sitting out, missing valuable World Cup point opportunities. Um, I mean, it kind of means the field's going to be open for some Elvira Obergs, some Julia Simones, some Lou Jaminots. I mean, I guess first, what does this mean for the biathlon world when your favorites aren't racing? These are two athletes that have really big like social media followings. They're ambassadors for the sport. Obviously, last year they had the fight at the very end of the season for the overall. So kind of tough for the sport, when they're not participating. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And you never want to see an athlete, miss races or miss competitions or games, whatever sport they play for, any reason. I think for, Vitozzi to be out for the whole first trimester at the very least, and then Tandrevold to have race results that I don't think she was expecting or hoping for, or anyone was expecting. But you have to respect their decisions to take the time to get healthy, get back to feeling good before they go into a full race season. The season's super long, and missing the first week or so, it sucks. And for the women's field, that probably puts you out of contention for the overall. But in the long-term performance of yourself as an athlete, you have to make those hard decisions. I think what this news surprises me most in the way is that the women's field is actually more open than let me say that again. The women's field is much more being dominated by one person than the men's field is right now. And that is not what I would have expected with Vitozzi out for the first weekend. I mean, does this give Elvira Oiberg, a super clear, easy shot to the yellow bib at the end of the season? I don't know, maybe not. But as of now, she has a pretty healthy lead after only three races.
Yeah, just real quick, the men have three competitors, within like 5 points of each other. But yeah, the women have a very clear leader. Really cool to see that Preuss and Jean Monod are second and third right now. And then Davidova fourth. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough with those two, Tandrevold and Vitozzi, being out. I mean, even at this point, let's assume that Vitozzi comes back full gas, wins every single race from World Cup 4 through the end of the season. I don't know if that'll be enough to overcome this gap that Oiberg's going to have, if Oiberg can keep it. I mean, she let's see here. She came 3-2-1. She's medaled in all three individual races so far. So if she keeps up that pace, even if she doesn't win every race, but Vitozzi does, I don't think Vitozzi's going to have enough time to catch up. And then Tandrevold, even if she only misses the races that are coming up in Hochfilzen, which let me remind myself real quick, sprint pursuit. Only sprint and pursuit. So that's only 2 races that she'd be missing for points. Still, it's going to be really hard to come back. So, this is rough. And I mean, obviously, medical issues, that's the number one thing. We want everyone to be healthy. Tandrevold has had issues in the past with the irregular heartbeat thing. I mean, she collapsed at the Olympics when she was in medal contention, I believe in the pursuit, if I recall correctly. She's collapsed in Oberhof. So it's something that she has to deal with. And as of now, it's been okay. But I guess this weekend she was sort of stopping at the top of climbs, not pushing through the hills because she was just not feeling right. And, that's scary because this sport is driven on, the heart. So it's like, you can have good lungs, you can have good muscles, but it's the heart that drives in this sport. So you got to make sure the heart stays healthy. So yeah, just wish her the best of luck. Hopefully she can get back. But that really leaves the women's field. I want to say open, but right now Elvira Oiberg is really taking charge of the standings. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone else can maybe slide in there with this opportunity of Vitozzi and Tandrevold being out. Because right now, if you're going to try to make a move for the top 3, now is the time to do it. You know what I mean?
For sure.
All right. Now, I mean, we're talking about overalls, Ethan. If at the start of the season I said Elvira Oiberg's going to wear the yellow bib, I think a lot of biathlon fans would say, finally, because she's actually never worn the yellow bib. Finally, she wore the yellow bib. But what if I told you after the first weekend it would not be Johannes Tingesbo, and in fact, it would not be a Norwegian wearing the yellow bib, but in fact, it would be Eric Perrault from France. Man, what does that mean?
I would have not believed you at all if you told me that, 2 weeks ago. But to see one of the younger athletes right there at the top, you always like to see it. And we talked about last episode of if the Norwegian dominance would end. I'm going to say it's definitely not where it was last year. They're definitely still up there. It's pretty polarizing at the top with Norway and France, but to see Perot wear the yellow bib is going to be so much fun to watch. I think he definitely got some help from poor shooting this week. I think his ski speed was down or is down so far from last year. His shooting has been, I'm assuming, much above average for the men's field. But it's awesome to see a young athlete at the top and bringing a challenge to the rest of the Norwegians.
Yeah, and it is really interesting what you just mentioned there, because when we look at his stats here, last year 84, about 85% shooting is good. You want to maybe see if we can get that up to like 87. That would be great. But this weekend he was 94, which definitely definitely helps the cause. But this is the crazy thing here is his skiing is down from last year, actually. And even if we sort by trimester, here's the first trimester. He was skiing super fast at the championships, but even in the other trimesters, he was up, except for, I guess, trimester 2. He was actually a little slower than he was this last weekend. But in general, skiing slower this year than he did last year. And then able to have his second win of his career after Soldier Hollow last year. Just he's winning at the right time, and he's gonna start with the yellow bib in Hochfilzen, which is kind of crazy. But even more than Eric Perot, which is even crazier, I think, is France is back. The French men came to play. They went 1-2 in the mass start with Kontiolahti and following up Perot, and then Emilien Jacquelin wins the sprint. So the French guys, I feel like they've been getting a lot of crap for the last couple of years because their coaches quit, calling them prima donnas basically. Like Jacquelin has the ability. Everyone says Jacquelin has the outright talent to beat Johannes Tingesbo, but he's just so erratic that he can't consistently do it. Fionn Maé has been getting a lot of crap since he was the overall winner and then just absolutely tanked in the overall standings. Is France real? Is France real? Are they going to come and they're going to challenge Norway this year? I mean, they even won the relay. They beat Norway in the relay, which Norway men's team hasn't lost a relay in forever. Honestly, their B team probably could have done very competitive. Their IBU Cup team probably could have done very competitive in the relay. That's how deep they are. And France just shows up and beats them for the first time in a long time. Is France real or are they frauds?
I think they're real. Based on this weekend, they were shooting lights out. Watching Fionn Maé on the range was like, I had no doubt in my mind that he was going to ever miss a target watching him. In the relays, when I saw that Jacquelin was going last, I was pretty nervous based on his previous relay performances. But I mean, the mixed relay maybe didn't go so great, but the men's relay, he didn't blow it. He had the opportunity to do some penalty laps, cost his team the win, but he crushed it this weekend. I'm not going to sugarcoat it at all. I was super impressed. He was probably one of the athletes I was most surprised by this week. If Fionn Maé, Jacquelin, and Perot keep performing at the level they are now, or even if that performance level decreases, I think they're going to be just fine. They're super deep this year. They have Fabien Claude in 15th, Gigonat in 18th. I think they have the depth and the talent. They've always had the depth and the talent, but now putting it into actual race results and performances has kind of been the struggle, especially consistently. But if this is a season that they can do that going into an Olympic year next year, that sounds pretty awesome to me.
Yeah, and I mean, Jacquelin, or I guess the men's relay team does not get enough credit for what they did there with no misses up until Jacquelin's standing, which is, you kind of saw the little smirk on his face when he had those misses because he knew that he sort of ruined something that would have been really special. I mean, winning the race in general is special, but going absolutely clean with no spares would have been immaculate. Um, but the crazy thing is, and as I'm kind of looking at these results a little bit more in depth right now, they actually only had one more spare round than Norway and beat Norway by 25 seconds. So my guess is their shooting, or I'm sorry, their skiing was actually also very competitive. If I can pull it up real quick. Here's what I want. Total course time. Yeah, I mean, seems a little, this data seems a little funky here, but it looks like as a team they outskied Norway by 23 seconds, which is insane. We talked about in our season opener podcast, we talked about whether or not maybe Norway might not be as dominant this year, because what if they had an advantage in the waxing? And last year they invested, a ton of money in the new system with fluoro-free stuff like that, and they just had this advantage last year where it took some other nations a little bit more time to catch up. I'm wondering if we're seeing that a little bit, because just across the board, men and women, like Norway did not seem like they had um, the impressive ski speed that they had last year. At least from my opinion, I think that's the real advantage that they had, because they could afford themselves a miss here or there. Like if Johannes Bö went 0-1 or 1-0 in a sprint, you still kind of had him on the podium. Same with Christensen, Dale, maybe not Lagerud. He kind of went down a little bit in ski speed last year, but it seemed like when Norway they basically they could shoot 90% and still be in the fight for the podium, any of those athletes. Whereas this year, yes, like you mentioned, some of their shooting was pretty bad, but this year the I don't know, it just seemed like they didn't have it, and I don't know, it didn't help with poor shooting as well in some of these races. Obviously, Stronsheim did great in the individual and got his medal. Good for him. But I mean, Bo was just like two misses in prone in the sprint. It was terrible. And like if you're 7 wins away from being the most having the most wins in biathlon history, you can't be getting two misses in sprints and not even coming up competitive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, clicking through each of the Norwegians, every single one of their ski speeds is down this year so far. Does that mean, like you were talking about, how the advantage they had on the ski prep isn't there? Or, did they miss the training? Or are they, some teams kind of peak way earlier in the season? Like, are the French doing that now? And the Norwegians are kind of working up towards world champs. We won't know till we get to the end of the season. But
right.
If their ski speed does not improve, I'm a little concerned. They might not even go 1-2 in the overall. Like Johannes could very well finish off the podium of the overall if he doesn't, kind of get his act together a little bit.
Yeah, let me see here. Real quick. Here are the skiing leaders for this season so far. Sebastian Samuelsson has been the fastest. Jeremy Finello, I mean, this dude, he keeps popping up in the top 3, but just cannot find the target to save his life. But actually kind of surprising, Jasper Nalin 4th, and Bo is up there in 3rd. But okay, last year, let's go back to last year. 4 of the top 5 Norwegian. 4 of the top 5. Now this year, looks like we have 3 in the top 10, and then Dale just got sent down to the IBU Cup because of how the whole Norwegian system works. He's last for Norwegians in the overall ranking, so he's going down to the IBU Cup, and Martin Uldal is coming up now. So really, you have two in the top 10. I guess that would move Lagerud up. So still 3 in the top 10 for ski speed. But look at all these French guys up here: Cloud, Filmae, Jacqueline, and Perot's not even on here. There's Perot, 21st ski rank. and he's our yellow bib guy. So yeah, just kind of interesting. Where it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, look at Sweden too. Neline's up there. Stephenson. Who's this guy? I hadn't even heard of this guy. Where's Ponsaloma? 13. So this is going to be interesting to see as the season plays out. If maybe things kind of come back to the average or resort back to the mean, but just kind of interesting to look at that data there because yeah, last year it just seemed, like I said, it seemed like Norway had the advantage on the skis, and now that is definitely not the advantage based on this weekend. All right, Swedish women though. I mean, like everyone had France as the team to beat on the women's side, I think, and France is so deep. They have three superstars and a fourth that could win on any day with her ski speed. But I really think the team of the weekend was Sweden with the relay win. You have Elvira Oberg finally getting that yellow bib and then puts the cherry on top with that yellow bib and says, I'm keeping this thing. I'm winning the mass start. I'm not just getting a podium and holding on to the yellow bib. I'm winning the mass start. And now they currently lead in the Nations Cup. And I actually scrolled back the last couple seasons. I didn't want to spend too much time doing this because I went back like 10 years. Swedish women, for as strong as they've been the last couple years, have not won the Women's Nation Cup score in the last 10 years. And I don't even know how far back. So, I think a lot of people had France winning it this year, but based on what I saw this weekend, I mean, we got to talk about Sweden a little bit because they have more depth than they let on on paper, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think a few of the regulars that we've seen in the Swedish team have retired since last year, and to be able to fill those spots, maybe even a couple better performances this weekend than we've seen from the athletes that have since retired is awesome. And then what's surprising to me most is that Hanna Oiberg is the fifth Swedish woman. If they were to make their relay team based off of overall standings, she would not make the team.
That's crazy.
Which is crazy. Like a couple years ago, I know we were talking about how good the Swedish women are, how much potential they have, especially once Elvira, broke onto the scene. We've kind of been waiting for that to come true and become the reality. It's kind of been stolen by the French for the past couple of years, like you talked about. But the Swedish women look awesome. To bring in Ella Halverson into the single mixed relay and have her absolutely crush it and then continue to have good performances the rest of the weekend was awesome. I think they're kind of handing it to France right now. And, kind of like how we talked about the Norwegian men, the French women do not look amazing, kind of below the expectations we would have had, but maybe they'll figure it out. Maybe the Swedish women will continue to dominate. I'm kind of leaning a little bit more towards the Swedish women to dominate because they're not just shooting way better than everyone else, but they're actually putting together whole complete good biathlon races. I just have to wait and see.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to give a shout out to first, Sarah Anderson, who, let me go back here real quick. Sarah Anderson is 8th overall at 21 years old, couple medals from the junior and youth world championships. And then also Ella Halverson, who, look at this graph. I mean, she's done 5 races, it looks like. And shooting really well, skiing at a really high level. Let's see her. This is the tab I want here. Never really had a great result. Got a relay medal at Junior Worlds, but other than that, just a top 20 athlete at the junior races. In the 30s are her best races. I guess 6 in Poland at the Euro Champs, but yeah, I mean, it kind of both these two I think are names that, if you're really involved in biathlon and you really follow it closely, you might have recognized these names down in the IBU Cup or at the junior level. But for them to burst onto the scene this this weekend and then be in the top 10, Anderson 8, Halverson 6, and be just really good, good teammates for the Obergs and Anna Magnuson, who's crushing it. I feel like Anna Magnuson never gets any love, but she is just a rock, like solid as a rock for Sweden. I think it's really, really impressive, and hopefully they can keep this going because I don't know, just it's exciting when you see these names. Even Hedgeberg, who's down here, Heidenberg, who's down here with Oiberg. Like she's another one who 24 years old, pretty young. Probably a name you don't recognize, but it's really cool to see them, stepping up and keeping that legacy going with Lynn Persson, who just got married. I forget her maid, or I forget her new name now, but we know her as Lynn Persson. She's out for the season with injury, and then Mona Brorson retired. So it's really cool that these athletes are stepping up and continuing the tradition. But I mean, where's France? Lou Jamineau is third overall. Okay. Ocean Michelin is their next athlete in 9. Nobody had that. At least I didn't. And then here's Julia Simone. Where's Justine? Okay, granted, one of the first races of the year was an individual race. Definitely not Justine's bread and butter, but they did have the mass start, and Justine was 9th in the mass start. She's won the mass start globe the last couple seasons. So, yeah, just another. I don't know. Just seems kind of flat from France. I hope they can turn it on because I think it would be really cool if we have some head-to-head battle going on and there's like actually a fight in the Nations Cup, because I feel like the Nations Cup is always just like, dominated by one team, men and women, and it's never really exciting. But if we can get a season where there's actually a lot of back and forth in the Nations Cup, that could be pretty exciting, and it might be one of the first times I actually like follow the team aspect of biathlon, because usually it's just about who's going to win the overall. But it would be cool if we can be like, wow, like this athlete had a great race and came in 12th place. That's going to be huge for their Nations Cup. You know what I mean? That'd be pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like another level of watching and appreciating biathlon is not just the individual successes, but the team successes as a whole. It's kind of fun to watch how teams and nations develop athletes from the junior level and IBU Cup level onto the World Cup. And we've seen cases where it goes really well, cases where it goes poorly. But for the Swedish women to kind of finally be putting the pieces together, it feels like is awesome. I think we also kind of talked about the Norwegian women, how they've been up there but haven't quite had the two like superstars that we've seen in the past from Roisland and Eckhoff. They're going to take a hit, obviously, with Tandrevold having some health issues, but it's always fun to see it mix up at the top, not just see Norway for the men and France for the women.
Yeah, and so real quick for those who aren't familiar with Nations Cup, here's how it works in the relay events, both the single mixed relay and the mixed relay, I believe. You get points for whatever place you come in, and then in the individual events, they score your top 3. So here we had Halverson, we had Oiberg, and then in 12th, I forget who we had, but then they score your top 3, and you get points based on that, and then it's just a running total through the season. And yeah, like I said, I went back the last couple of years, and last year it was France for the women, and then the year before that was France again, and then just Norway back for as long as I scrolled away. So Sweden has come in second a ton of times. They've never actually won the Nations Cup, so it would be really cool if they can keep that going. But we'll keep you updated on that this year as it goes on, because hopefully this continues to be a storyline that goes throughout the whole season. But All right, and our final shot for today. What a great start from the U.S. team. I mean, that was genuinely super exciting. And at first, I thought it was exciting with Maxime Germain coming in 20th place in the individual. Really great for him. That was his first race where he scored points. So good for him. Definitely, the young guy on the team. Even though technically he's older than Campbell, right? He was kind of the fourth guy last year, bouncing on and off the circuit with Vincent Bonacci. And then got the nod to start the season, and in the first race really secures that pick. So really cool to see him have such a good race to start. But then right after that, Deidre Irwin backs it up, shooting clean in the individual, placing 15th. In the sprint, the guys we totally skipped the relay. The guys came in 6th in the relay, which, I mean, last year they came in 4th on home snow in Soldier Hollow, so it's like, boo, 6 kind of sucks, do better. No, I'm just kidding. 6 is great. Anytime they're in the top 6, I would say that's like super successful day. And then in the sprint, all 4 of the men would have been in the pursuit, but unfortunately we had the mass start, so they didn't get to race. But the bigger headline was now Campbell Wright getting a personal best, coming in 4th place, almost this close to getting his first career podium. But yeah, just all the way around, just a super exciting first weekend if you're a U.S. Biathlon fan.
Oh, absolutely. I think this is probably the best opening weekend that I can remember. But to see pretty much the whole men's team have some awesome results. Sean was in the top 30 in the sprint, shooting clean. I know Jake hasn't quite put it all together on the range, but his ski times have been awesome. All of the guys have been able to put together, lap times and ski times that are competitive with the whole rest of the field. Makes you look pretty excited going forward. Right now we're sitting 9th in the Nations Cup overall for the men. I think we're going to see that improve as the season goes on. Hopefully we keep making pursuits and then getting points. And Max was so close to getting a start in the mass start. Hope it'd be awesome to get to see him in a mass start sometime this year. But if Campbell can consistently stay towards the top, and I think this is kind of just scratching the surface of what the U.S. team is capable of this season.
Yeah, and take a look at this. 9th place right now. Obviously, it's only the first weekend. This is going to move, but the U.S. has barely cracked the top 10 with a 10th place in 2017. But really, we've been outside the top 10 since 2017. So that's coming up on, nearly 8 years. 8 years of being outside the top 10. And I think we have room to grow. Honestly, I think if we had a pursuit after the sprint and all our guys got to race again, I think we would have done better than just having Campbell in the mass start. And then also, I think we're due for a relay podium this year, which would be huge for points, but also huge for our nation, as the best we've ever done in a relay is 4th place. So the fact that I think we have the talent right now to potentially get a medal is huge. But also in the single mixed relay, I think we have a huge opportunity for a medal there with Deidre and Campbell or Max. I mean, Deidre and Max raced the single mixed relay in Conti this week and did great. So I think we have a lot of potential right now, and I just hope everyone stays healthy. I hope everyone stays focused and motivated and can ride this out, because there's a really, really positive wave coming through US Biathlon right now. This is actually, now that I'm looking at this is really interesting that they came in 6th back in 2016. I really wonder who was on the team that year. I'll have to go back and double check some of the team members, because this is an incredible year, coming in 6th ahead of Ukraine, Czech Republic. Definitely Tim Burke and Lowell Bailey were on the team this year, but I'm trying to remember who the other athletes were. But anyway, yeah, just super exciting, and hopefully they just keep that momentum going.
Mm-hmm. And even though biathlon is such an individual sport, when your team is having success, it really brings up the level of everybody else. And just having the morale at the dinner table, the breakfast table, at training, in the vans makes a huge difference. And I think going from Kontiolahti, where it's kind of dark and cloudy and cold all the time, to sunny Austria and Hochfilzen will be kind of add another level to that enthusiasm and excitement. I wouldn't be surprised if the U.S. have some even better performances this week in Hochfilzen.
Yeah, and I think also Hochfilzen, I mean, they've literally have had success there in the past. That's where Lowell won the World Championships, and then Susan has also earned some medals at Hochfilzen at that same World Championships. So we've had success in Hochfilzen in the past, so hopefully we can capitalize on that and see even better results this upcoming week. But yeah, going to be exciting. All right, let's finish it off with our spare round. I forgot to write this one in our little note sheet, so this is going to be a complete surprise for you, Ethan. So I'm going to catch you, see if I can catch you sleeping here. But so this last weekend we had Suvi Minkkinen, who is the absolute wild card, out of nowhere podium placer. Who is going to be the out of nowhere podium placer in Hochfilzen this weekend?
That's a great question. Does it have to be men's or women's, or
men? It could be men or women. Who do you got?
Men or women? Oh my! Wow, this is such a loaded question right here. Let's see, it's a sprint and a pursuit,
and then the relay. So the relay does not help this cause.
Yeah. Ooh, I'm trying to find someone that hasn't really had, a ton of success.
I mean, Minkkinen, that's like her best result aside from this podium was like 10th or something. So that's really random. And that was 10th place last year. No, I'm sorry. That was 10th place in the individual a couple days earlier. 2 seasons ago at World Championships, she came in 8th in the individual. Everything else has been above 10th. So that was really out of nowhere.
Dang. I'm going to go with... See, I know she had success this weekend, but I think Ella Halverson might get her first podium. She didn't get a podium this past weekend.
She did. She came second in the short individual.
Okay, never mind. I take that back.
That's actually also a complete out of nowhere. That was her 3rd World Cup biathlon race ever.
Yeah.
Her 2 first races were 33rd and 58th, and then she pops a second.
I'm debating between Halverson or Julia Tannheimer to get on the podium.
I like Tannheimer.
Tannheimer really showed that she's here to throw down with the big dogs this season, and it feels like only a matter of time before she, shoots clean in a sprint and skis a top 5 ski time.
Yeah. I like the Tannheimer pick. If you're going to go with that one, I like it.
I'll go with that one because I look like less of an idiot.
Okay. I'm going to go with Martin Uldal from Norway, who I witnessed with my own 2 eyes his absolute domination of the IBU Cup last week, and now he gets called up to the World Cup. I think the guy's hot right now, and I think he's gonna pop a good one because at least from what I saw and also what we saw in Shushin at the Norwegian season opener, he is not doing any worse than Stronheim, Johannes Tingis, Sturla. And I know that he's a youngster, and so is Eric Perot. So I want to see these 2 guys go at each other, and let's get a couple 23-year-olds to throw down at the top of the field. That would be pretty exciting.
I like that. That's a good pick.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. You can watch us. We're trying to do with video feed now, so you can see our beautiful faces as we're talking about biathlon. If you go over to Brian and Ethan's Biathlon Podcast on YouTube, we also have the Clips channel where we take each individual segment of what we talked about and splice it up into its own videos, so you can watch that if you want. But if you just like listening to us on your drive to work or while you're working or something, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. So hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening. But until next time, we'll see you.